Hello and welcome to the Beardicus Show. My name is Beardicus and today I will be talking about Splatoon 2's DLC, the Octo Expansion. Now I've already talked about Splatoon 2 itself, but if you haven't seen that video I'll give you a quick recap. I think the game itself is fun, although the single player left a lot to be desired, specifically because I didn't think it progressed the story at all. Like, I didn't expect it to progress the story a lot, but I expected something, and nothing happened at all. And that's where the Octo Expansion comes in. The Octo Expansion is a new single-player campaign where you follow the adventure of a lone Octoling as she, or he, men can be octopuses too, runs around this labyrinthine runs around this maze-like subway system. This mode begins with your Octoling, dubbed Agent 8, waking up with amnesia because, of course. Luckily, you're not alone. Captain Cuttlefish from the first game is here to greet you, and so is what has to be the single most far-out phone that has ever existed. By which I mean it is far out of date. Then the phone will explain your task. The subway train will bring you throughout this vast facility wherein you will find the four things that when... the four things with an A. When the four things are collected, they will allow you to ascend to Cephalopod Heaven, Inkopolis, aka the Promised Land. And now it is time for this incredible journey to begin. If you unsubscribe because of that pun, I think I understand. Or should I say I punderstand? Yeah, even I'm gonna unsubscribe for that one. At its core, this mode is very similar to Hero Mode. There are a lot of small levels that are mostly unrelated to each other with a flimsy excuse plot tying them all together. In this case, they're all just a bunch of tests for you to complete, which, if you ask me, is probably one of the most flimsy excuses you could give. Regardless, a lot of missions in this mode are significantly different from those that you find in Hero Mode. For one thing, while every mission in Hero Mode required you to reach the end of the level, this mode has much more varied objectives. Sometimes you'll have to break a bunch of targets, sometimes you'll have to escort a giant 8-ball, sometimes you'll have to play a round of Space Invaders, and yes, sometimes you'll still have to find your way to the end of the level. Another slightly more subtle difference from Hero Mode is the inclusion of optional levels. Technically, pretty much every level in this mode is optional. The map is a huge maze of interconnecting rails, which means there are many different ways to get from point A to point C, and not all of them require going through point B. When I finished this mode, I had only beaten 39 of the 80 missions. And even then I had gone pretty far out of my way to clear several missions that I didn't actually have to clear. And if you use the optimal route, you can beat this mode by clearing only 23 missions. Now, I know what you're thinking. Beardicus has such an awesome beard, and he's such a cool guy. Aw, shucks, you didn't have to say that. But I also know what else you're thinking. If I can beat this mode after clearing only about a quarter of the stages, what's the point of having so many stages? Well, for one thing, it gives you more options of which path you're going to take, which is probably a good enough reason by itself. But beyond that, beating missions allows you to collect these little eraser doodads. You see, this mode does away with the sunken scrolls and the... whatever the other collectible in Hero Mode was. Hang on, it was... Sardinium. That was it. Instead, the only collectibles this time are the mem cakes, as they're called. You gain 1 every time you complete a mission, and then you can look at it from the menu in the hub, and you'll be given a short little poem to read. They're usually fun little things, but some of them aren't so good. A lot of them do rely on slant rhymes, and I mean, that's fine, but several of them just don't even rhyme. And, like, I get that poems don't have to rhyme, but when most of them do, and then you try to rhyme prize with inside, it gets a little jarring. Now, as someone who has written an entire video in rhyme before, I understand how hard it can be to come up with a bunch of rhymes all, at once. So I'm not going to hold this against the game, I just kind of wanted to point it out. Also, I didn't cheat on any of my rhymes, I'm just saying. Anyway, the true purpose of the mem cakes is for you to give them to this— oh my goodness! What is that thing? Is that like a giant sea cockroach? Ew! Oh, Isopadre. He's an isopod. I gotcha. If you bring Isopadre a whole bunch of mem cakes, in return, he'll give you some new gear that you can wear when you reach the Promised Land. And that's a promise. So, if you want to unlock all of the gear available in this DLC, you're going to have to clear all 80 levels. And why shouldn't you? It's not like it costs a fee to try any of these tests. Oh wait, it does. Yep, Power Eggs returned from Hero Mode, except they're now called CQ points. CQ standing for CQ Cumber, the train's conductor who charges you a fee for every test you attempt. And these fees can range from 100 to 2,000 points. And if you run out of lives, you're going to have to pay that fee again to keep trying. Yeah, some of the later, more difficult missions can get really expensive. Take this one for example. You have to defend an orb in the center of the map from a few Octolings, right? How hard could it possibly be? Pretty hard, as it turns out. Especially when 3 or 4 of them spawn at once, and all of them use their specials and just rain a constant stream of death on you. And a bit of advice, if you are stuck on this mission, according to TV tropes, if you pick any weapon that's not a roller or a paintbrush, it's essentially suicide. I kind of wish I had known that before I spent 6,000 points trying to do this with the dualies. Hey, for the record, I did win. The dualies worked just fine for me. Eventually. You may have noticed that I had 17,000 points by the time I beat that mission, which means that I started with around 23,000 points. Which brings me to my next point. The point, if you will. The reason that the later missions can get so expensive is because points are not hard to come by. You start the adventure with 1,000 points, and you gain a decent amount every time you beat a mission. And most of the time, you can even use one continue and still make a bit of a profit, but not always. Going back to that one mission I showed you, it cost 2,000 points per try, and it only awarded 3,000 points when I won. Meaning that after one continue, I was already in the red. And by the time I finished, I was in the purple. Although, admittedly, that is my own fault. I could have saved a lot of those points, because if you game over on a single mission twice, Marina will offer to hack the mission for you, so you can just skip over it and complete it later if you want. But my pride just would never let me take that kind of offer. Pride comes before the fall, as they say, and I guess in this case, the fall was me losing 2,000 more points than I needed to. Although, I did gain 3,000 points when I won, so that means that if I had used the hack, I would have ended up with 1,000 fewer points than I ended up with this way. Which means that my pride saved me points in the long run. So pride comes before the rise? No, that's not the lesson I was supposed to learn, is it? But I digress. I mentioned one specific mission as being really difficult, and while I think this is the most difficult mission, it's far from the only difficult mission. Basically, if you're going into this mode expecting it to be a similar experience to Hero Mode, you're in for a rude awakening. But, on the other hand, the same can be said for the lore and backstory. Unlike Hero Mode, which really only stars Marie and doesn't develop the story beyond, hey, this is exactly what happened in the first game. This mode stars Captain Cuttlefish, Pearl, and Marina, and it gives us some backstory on the members of Off the Hook. For example, one of the big twists revealed in this mode is that Marina is actually an Octoling. Bam bam bam! Wait. Really? Were we not supposed to already know that? Huh. Alright, so not all of the developments in this mode are interesting, but just wait until you learn the truth about the subway system. Plus, this mode gives us a chance to see what Pearl and Marina are like when they're not on camera. And you do that by spying on their chat conversations. Alright, fine, Marina actually sends you the chat log, but I just think it's funnier to imagine that Agent 8 has no concept of privacy. And there is one final thing I want to talk about. I won't spoil anything, but the final boss was pretty cool. And once you beat all 80 missions, you unlock a bonus boss. And this boss is absolutely brutal. This boss is essentially an Octoling fight where you have no advantages. Your opponent has infinite ink, heat-seeking bombs, a gun with increased accuracy and damage, specials that recharge after like 5 seconds, and they have extra health. And it's a 5-phase battle, and if you die at any point, it's back to the start with you. Meanwhile, you have a garbage tear gun, a bomb that does nothing, and you don't even get a special. So, good luck with that. I fought this boss for over 2 hours, and I can't beat it. Is this what it feels like to be bad at a video game? Oh, I don't like it. Well, I may be a completionist, but there comes a point where you just have to say, I'm putting so much time into this that I could be putting into something else. I could be doing something more productive. I guess what I'm saying is there comes a time when you have to learn when to give up. And if you think that time is now, then you are wrong. I've made it to Phase 5 numerous times. I can do this. No matter how much they cheat, the odds are still in my favor. They need to beat me infinite times. I just need to win once. If I just keep trying, I'm gonna win by accident eventually. Hear this, calamari breath. I don't give up. I beat Star Allies Ultimate Choice on Soul Melter difficulty with every character. I beat Mario's Grandmaster Galaxy and Champion Road, and I beat Sans in Undertale. I don't give up. I'm going to win. Your days are numbered. And you know what? After I wrote this script, I went back and it took 3.5 hours, but I won. Because nobody, no game, no boss, nobody beats me forever. Okay, so I think it's about time to wrap this up. So I'll just say that this mode was much more satisfying than Hero Mode. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that this mode feels more like a sequel to the first Splatoon's hero mode than Splatoon 2's hero mode did. And if you want to know the length of the game, it took me 7.5 hours to finish this mode. And that's just how long it took to beat the game. To beat the bonus boss took me a total of 15 hours. 12 hours to complete all the levels, and then 3.5 hours to beat the boss. So 15.5 hours. For $20, I would say that a 15.5 hour campaign is probably worth the price. Not even counting the new character, or at least new character model, and all the new equipment you can get. So, all in all, this DLC gets a thumbs up from me. Obviously, the value is gonna depend on how good you are at the game, and how much you enjoy playing single-player modes in this game, but for me personally, I liked it. So, that's gonna be it for me. If you want to keep up with me on Twitter or on Twitch, I have been streaming on Twitch. In fact, I streamed this mode on Twitch. If you'd like to keep up with me, you can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, both of which I will put the links in the description below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And, I can't use my signing out joke, because that was going to be a reference to the fact that I wasn't going to give up on beating the bonus boss, but I already beat the bonus boss, so it wouldn't really make sense. But, you know what? I got nothing else prepared, because I literally beat the mode right before I started recording this, so I didn't get a chance to rewrite any of the script. So, what the heck? I'll just use the old joke anyway. Let's see. I will win if I try hard enough. I'll win eventually, even if I have to come back tomorrow, and the next day, 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 and the next